Today, I'm going to be reacting to Bricky's How Well Does Darktide Do Warhammer? Please go support his content, and the original video will be in the description. Thank you. Welcome to A Christian Reacts. If you like what you see, please consider a like and subscription, as that really helps the channel out. Share it to all platforms, and even to yourself, as that really helps the channel out. Also, I do Warhammer 40k lore in the Bible shorts, so if you want to check that out, just go to the short section on my page. Now, I'm a little different when it comes to reactions. I bring biblical commentary that is pertaining to the lore. You guys will be very surprised on how close it can be sometimes. But and I do some reaction, but I also mix it with some biblical verses and commentary and stuff, of course, pertaining to the lore. So I do want to get that out there. All right, so let's go ahead and get this started. And by the way, this is how I got into Warhammer 40k 2 years ago, was Darktide. A very unfinished game when it came out, and it probably should have went into early access. But anyways, let's see how well it does Warhammer. And I'll bring the other one, the other video that he does about Darktide as well. So anyways,
Hello everybody, my name is Bricky, currently liberating the entirety of Atoma Prime by providing them with the newest ink cleaning technology, bar soap. So Darktide sponsored my last video, and that was really awesome of them. It's nice to be noticed by the hammers that make war. Darktide then said,
"You want to see me do it again?"
Today's video is also sponsored by Darktide. 4 players, Shouty, Sparkhead, Sa, and Slab come together for a fantastic Nurgle-based co-op experience of survival and death. Tons of missions, tons of weapons, tons of armor, and tons of faith await you in Tertium. Down in the description,
the Emperor protects.
and it is the Grimoire of Nurgle, and blessed be the number 7. So if you click it, you can then join in on this fun. Where my prior video was a discussion mainly on how to play the game, today I'd like to ask the question, how well does Darktide do Warhammer? What I mean by this is, how well does the game adapt the source material into video game form? The Warhammer universe is an extremely unique and complicated one, and properly adapting it is difficult even at the best of times.
In my opinion, I think this game actually did pretty well. Like, let's say with the Psyker, if you forget to, if you just keep spamming, your spells and all that, right, you're going to explode. Stuff like that. And it's the little things that I think Fat Shark does pretty well when it comes to Warhammer. Now, they have a bad thing on releasing a game that isn't finished, but they seem to do a pretty good job of bringing it back. But I think that's the worst way gaming has gone. We used to have a good full product back in the day, but not anymore. But anyways.
Most of the factions in the universe take from modern day cultures or customs and then either give them a little spin on it or adapt it in some way. For example, the Necrons are a robotic Terminator vibe to begin with, and then they're blossomed up into an army of the undead mixed with a heavy Egyptian culture. The Adeptus Mechanicus are a combination of extreme steampunk mixed with like a monk culture, mixing aspects from like Tibetan monks with technophile extremism.
And a lot of droning. Sorry.
Weird. The Craft World Elder take after a more feudal Japanese culture. Tau a bit more of a sci-fi version. Drukhari are pirates.
Gundam.
Tyranids have like a Lovecraft and Xenomorph mixture. And orcs are football fans. For humanity, it's a combination of a fascist...
I do need to play that game, Blood Bowl. And by the way, in a way, I guess you could say it is fascism with a hierarchy, but it's imperialism. There's a difference. I don't know. People need to understand the difference between fascism and imperialism, right? There's a difference. That's why it's called the Imperium, right? It's an empire. But anyways, I digress. But again, they are similar in ways, though. Like a hierarchy and stuff like that. But anyways.
Big Brother style regime mixed with this kind of like Catholic witch-seeking cult and a bit of retro sci-fi like you see in the movies like Alien, and of course a ton of Gothic. Luckily for Darktide, that's really the main thing they need to focus on, humanity. Because I couldn't imagine what it would be like to have to juggle all the other factions along with them. But Warhammer games live and die on 4 major components: art direction, voice acting, music, and power scaling, in that order, most important to least. Let's start with art direction.
With this tool, I shall give birth to art!
In order to pull off the Imperium's aesthetic, everything needs to look like a massive factory and a church simultaneously. It needs to have skulls and parchment paper absolutely everywhere. For the most part, I'd say they pull this off with flying colors. Walking around the Morning Star shows this off quite well. The entire place looks like you're on the inside of a monolithic church with the statues of Imperial heroes and the architecture of things like even just the windows.
I think the ambience on the Morning Star is great. They did a really good job on that, in my opinion. But anyways.
But within that church, it feels like a military station. Like a church itself is going to war, which is pretty accurate. The cable management here makes me want to dry heave. It just goes and goes and goes, circling around metal and steel in an infinite loop. And dangerously close to those cables are candles. And by
where are the rugs at, man? At least put some rugs on there, you know? But anyways.
By the throne, there are so many candles. Now we mix those candles with parchment and purity seals, which we are just absolutely covered in. The purity seals are, by the way, those little wax seals and pieces of parchment you see everywhere. They are inscribed with holy duties, prayers, scripture, all kinds of blessings that are supposed.
Okay, so the main thing of Darktide, right, is the pox bursters and all that stuff. You know, the pox. And, you know, the armies of Nurgle and stuff like that. So this is kind of interesting here. So it's about the mark of the beast. So Revelation 62. And by the way, I'm going to bring up some verses that could be talking about zombies and stuff like that too. So, but anyways. And the first went, or Revelation 16:2. And the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth. And there fell noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image. Now, we all know that, in my opinion, this image of the beast is this AGI, right? It's an artificial intelligence because it's able to speak. It's able to give commands, but it's also, you know, it says the beast will sit in the temple of God. Well, the temple of God is us, right? The Bible says, don't you know that you are the temple of God? That the Spirit of God lives in you. So imagine taking the mark, which is going to allow the beast or the image of the beast to sit in you, right? To be a part of you in a way, right? Like the Holy Spirit is. But anyways, I digress.
To resemble a lack of chaos taint or just duty to the god emperor. As you can tell, they kind of go ham with this stuff. Also, side note, the ship, it's called the Morning Star, which first harkens to the medieval weapon, right? The big Morning Star. But then you realize it's spelled Morning Star, as in mourning the dead, plus.
Well, also, mourning in Kabbalah is reference to Leviathan. You know, where it says his eyes are like the morning. That's what they're saying here. Not here, but I'm just saying a lot of times, you know, like Lucifer, son of the morning, right? It says, you know, in the book of Enoch, 69, it literally calls him the son of the serpent, right? And of course, Lucifer, verse 14 and 16, it literally calls him a man, right? And of course, I believe he is the beast of Revelation also, because he's brought down to the pit. It says the beast comes up out of the pit. But anyways, so when you see mourning, sometimes it is reference to the serpent, this dragon-like being, right? Especially in Kabbalism. But anyways, I digress.
Star, spaceships, the Morning Star. It's a pretty good ship name. Now, there's always a possible worry.
Which, of course, they say Lucifer means morning star. It does not. Hallel means the shining one. So I want to get that out there as well. It means the shining one.
About lack of skulls. There needs to be enough skulls. This game does not have a lack of skulls. In Warhammer, AI is illegal. So all mechanisms require a human brain. Normally,
sorry, and real quick, in Hebrew it's Hallel ben Shahar. Shahar is a Canaanite god of the dawn, who it talks about him in verse 14 as well, called the Assyrian. And it calls him a seraphim, which is a fiery serpent. So, but anyways, I digress. You can go look that up yourself. It's in Isaiah 14, a little bit down. I can't remember the exact verse, darn it. Anyways.
lobotomized and reprogrammed in order to operate, among a few other things. This is why we have servo skulls flying around. They're little, servant skulls. They're the classic line, like,
Hands. Are we the baddies?
well, you should absolutely be thinking that the entire time playing the game, and I think they met their skull quota quite well. As for each of the classes, the guardsman looks pretty right. I'd say you could maybe 40s them up a tiny bit more, maybe a few hanging baubles here and there, like a tiny little incense jar or an aquila here or there. But the guardsman's a hard one, since depending on where you come from, their culture.
Okay, I'm sorry, real quick. I wanted to bring this up. So this is Isaiah 14, verse 25. That I will break the Assyrian in my land, and upon my mountains tread them underfoot. Okay, so let's go down a little bit further. And this is talking about the same guy here, okay? Verse 29. Rejoice not thou, whole Palestina, because the rod of him that smote thee is broken. For out of the serpent's root shall come forth a cockatrice, and his fruit shall be a fiery flying serpent, which means seraphim. Oops, sorry about that. So there you go. Lucifer, son of the morning. Lucifer, son of the Assyrian, or this god of the dawn. But anyways.
Can vary substantially, so it really depends on what you're trying to go for. The Zealot is pretty on point. I really have no issues there. That's kind of perfect. When I think of a Zealot, yeah, that's about right. The Psyker is good, but I wish the actual character could have a bit more mutations. If you see the Navigator class, the new Rogue Trader game, they're pretty
I agree with that.
mutated compared to the normal humans. The Psyker does have a few options, right? Like strange stuff you can do with their eyes, like pitch black. But I would have liked maybe just a bit more weird bits added to it to really spice up that creepy factor. Unsanctioned Psykers are sometimes like the fucking Exorcist girl. So adding a bit more would be pretty dope. Ogrins are nearly perfect. Like when I first started playing this game, I was gonna comment that the ones in the game were way too smart.
Ogrins?
Put in the comments how many times you accidentally hit a barrel and killed somebody. You know? Anyways.
Humans. What's that mean?
Probably gonna have to censor that part, but that's alright.
Better not be insult.
But then they mention the Bone Edge ship they have.
He
I
wouldn't
got
cuss.
metal machine here, but I'm okay.
Which I have to commend, because I was totally okay with saying, yeah, they're way too smart for normal Ogrins, but video game, you want them to talk with the squad mates, like I'm okay with that. But they literally thought of something. I didn't even have to use that excuse. Like, bravo. Because yeah, Ogrins are normally just complete infants. Like, what? They actually thought of it with the Bone Edge ship. That's Finally, when it comes to Nurgle, I'd say it hits about 80% of the way. From gameplay purposes, it definitely is a bit too generic zombie at times, not to mention the amount of dude with guns they rely on. But we are definitely fighting a more Nurgle corrupted hive city, as opposed to fighting Nurgle's demons. So this is to be expected. But I think I could do it a bit more horror. That gigantic tree with...
Alright. So I'll bring this up. So, okay. Now this is, I don't know if this is necessarily talking about a zombie apocalypse, but it is very interesting. This is more of like the people that come against Israel, or the people, which Israel just means the people of God, by the way. It's not just a nation state, right? But anyways, according to the Bible. And this shall be a plague, or Zechariah 14:12. And this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. Oops. And it shall come to pass in that day that a great tumult from the Lord shall be among them. And they shall lay hold every one on the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. And Judah also shall fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of the heathen round about shall be gathered together, gold, silver, and apparel in great abundance. And so shall the plague of the horse, of the mule, of the camel, and of the ass, and the beast that shall be in these tents, as this plague. So, interesting.
The eyes and the horrifying faces are perfect, and the Beast of Nurgle is pretty disgusting too. I would have liked maybe some plague bearers as an enemy, or a plague drone instead of the plague ogrim. That being said, I think Nurgle was the strongest choice for enemy in this kind of game. I'd kill for a Tzeentch or a Slaanesh style, but that would be really hard to do well. I don't know how you'd pull off a Tzeentch Horde game or a Slaanesh Horde game without getting a much more than M-rated game. Nurgle, for the most part, is pretty excellent. I do want a little bit more Nurgle demons and stuff, but I also need to temper my expectations because I want to see all the things. But as far as art direction goes, this game might be the strongest. You have a solid case that Battlefleet Gothic 2 and Mechanicus might give it a run for its money, but it's a damn hard run. But it's not surprising.
What a great soundtrack Mechanicus had, man. That was a great soundtrack. They portrayed it well, in my opinion.
Surprising, since like the success of Vermintide goes a long way, but it's still real treasure to see. Now, second on our list is voice acting.
Amazing, just with my voice.
I think they did a pretty good job on voice acting, in my opinion.
Upper 40K voice acting is probably a combination of incredibly fun to do and terrible on the voice.
I am judgment.
It also forces you into the frightening realm of British accents.
Another set of useless bloody orders from some useless bloody carcass.
Most of humanity has that British accent since, you know, Games Workshop is a British company.
That's terrible,
and they have been a fan of that old hobby called colonization. Though there are a ton of accents for the most part, it's just British is the standard. As for the voice acting itself, fervor is the most important aspect. You need to say your lines with your chest. The ability to really sell that, yes, this person believes what they are saying is the needle point there. You know, when an actor becomes so large, you stop seeing the character they're playing and instead start seeing the actor only. Like I had this issue with Leonardo DiCaprio. I can only ever see him as that. Warhammer has no room for that. You must become the character. You must see yourself in this bizarre world, and every line must be delivered with that pinpoint accuracy.
I think he's pretty much hitting the nail on the head. I mean, I agree 100% with what he's saying there.
For the veteran, I'd give them like a solid B+ here. Guardsmen are a bit difficult since they're the everyman sometimes, so it's occasionally hard to do it properly and dissolve into that character. But I think this is as close as we're gonna get with the packs we have. The professional has a clean-cut accent.
This is life in a hive city. I'll stay with the guard. Give my fragging right arm to see the golden throne. Just once. You lot wouldn't last a day in the guard. You know that?
Oh, stick it up your arm.
Nice shot. Nice fragging shot.
The loose cannon definitely adds a bit more comic relief.
Lifting Medicaid.
Blah, blah, blah. Off wench.
Fragging pilot.
Should be allowed near a tarot deck.
Help me get even with our pilot, would you? Took me for everything, and now I have to... Oh, no, you don't need to know.
But the standout for me is the cutthroat from Cadia. He has that poisonous speech that comes from someone who's just really fucking pissed off all the goddamn time. And that is how I imagine Cadians probably feel right now.
The tech priest is creepy.
All right, everybody, a moment of silence. Okay.
She knows the stuff. If I start speaking in ones and zeros, put me down here. You wouldn't have lasted a day on Cadia. Is that right? And how's things working out for Cadia right now? You shut your mouth. I'll say it for you. I'm not scared. You'll come apart at the last moment. just like Cadia.
The Zealot. Oh my god, the Zealots. Oh, they achieve a standout A++ extra credit with their voice lines. They have absolutely nailed it.
If in doubt, kindred, place your faith in fire. The hotter, the better.
All six
Yeah.
sound fantastic. And I love how they went with different types of piety for them. They range between all kinds of emotions. They had like dorky Bible study priests.
What unfathomable might hath the master of mankind, that he unites 1,000,000 worlds beneath his banner.
The holier than thou attitude, and of course, like the judge,
You cannot hide from judgment's imminent.
who has the emperor's light in their lungs.
Blood for the emperor! Skulls for the golden throne!
The VA work here is brilliant. No complaints. As for the Psyker, it can be a bit hit or miss. However, I wouldn't say the hit or miss comes from the performance, but rather the actual voice lines being said. The crazy, shrill loner lady and also the insane German Psyker say some heretical things.
The emperor survives on human flesh and human blood. His imperium likewise.
What is Indomitus Crusade?
'Tis a glorious attempt by Lord Guliman to unite the Master's realm across the scar of chaos.
Lengths some will go to in order to earn a parade.
Honest to God, Emperor, they would have been just gone significantly sooner. Just like, hey, what's up, everyone? It's me, Psyker, you know, the Carrion Emperor, and then... What? But some do mix that hybrid of terrifyingly scary and funny at the same time. They don't have outright poltergeist, which is too...
I kind of like the Jamaican one, in my opinion, anyways. But anyways,
bad, despite understanding why they wouldn't, but it's too bad. I would have loved that. Though I think the standout here might actually be the one that constantly talks about the Emperor as his beloved.
At least the Emperor's wiggled. You hear that, beloved? He's talking about you.
I can teach you my secret language if you like. It has 15 vowels. Oh, I do enjoy your company. I wish you were all real.
Feel free to wake up anytime and spare us your company.
I think that's just the right mix of kooky crazy, but still lucid and understanding. Though the female savant one, I do think adds the right amount of classic damaged mage.
You should be more careful with those stray thoughts. I might get offended. Please, sibling, have some professional courtesy. Efficient, Psyker. I grant you that. It's called skill, Zealot.
Finally, the Ogren is just great. It's perfect. Most people go with the angry, like, bottom 8 Xenos one, and I couldn't be happier. All three versions are wonderful. They all have good voice lines, but just
In
I
China.
love that one a lot. It's so fun. It's so, like,
they're good to eat in China.
dorky and just having a good time, Ogren, man. I'll keep this short, because the Ogren wouldn't understand me anyway. Good job, big man. The supporting cast is the only group I feel could use a bit more oomph with them. Sergeant Major Morrow guy, he's pretty on point. I think he does quite well, but Explicator Zola and the pilot feel not bad, just there. They're there to serve their function and not much more. And I think they could use a bit more oomph in some of their delivery. I like Hadron a lot, though, a lot. Despite the fact that she has this, like, gilf energy to her, I maybe would have preferred her a bit more robotic and a bit more talking like this kind of way, but then we wouldn't get the sass, and I like the sass.
All this for a few Lehman Russes. Doesn't seem worth it.
A German war is harder, better, gooder. Am I saying that right? Do you understand?
Still, the main ensemble of characters is really damn good, and a combination
That sounds like something I would say. Gooderer.
of all four, I think, is the best group. You know, it kind of makes you think of Ed and Eddie. You know, I mean, that's only three, but like Ed is the Ogren, Double D is the Psyker, and Eddie is the Guardsman. Throw a Zealot in there, and you've got Cartoon Network's best show. Their best show. I will not hear otherwise. Who would win? The Chaos Gods or Ed with a rock in his shoe? Okay, music.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
No, Patrick, mayonnaise is not an instrument.
So 40K is quite...
All right, so I'll bring this up. Might as well here. All right. Now, this one's very interesting as well. Doesn't necessarily mean zombies or anything, but just like the other one. But Jeremiah 19:9. And I will cause them... Hold on, let me go to the thing itself. Okay. and I will cause them to eat the flesh of their sons and the flesh of their daughters, and they shall eat every one the flesh of his friend in the siege and straightness, wherewith their enemies, and they that seek their lives shall straiten them. Then shalt thou break in the bottle in the sight of the men that go with thee, and shalt say unto them, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, even so will I break his people in this city, as one breaketh a potter's vessel, that cannot be made whole again, and they shall bury them in the Tophet, till there be no place to bury. Now, let me bring this other verse up, and I'll let this play a little bit, but it's about the dead being formed from under the waters.
Gothic, as it said. But since it's a gothic sci-fi hybrid, soundtracks need to fuse that old with the new. Normally they do this by mixing organ music with either a more modern beat or electronic instruments. Warhammer music varies, but it often has to feel like it's a tale being told. For example, in Dawn of War 2, the Space Marines had a triumphant, heroic theme that really expressed the feeling of like a victorious song.
I actually liked Dawn of War 2. I know not a lot of people did, but I did. I liked it. And even Dawn of War 3, but that one did kind of go a little bit away from the RTS style. But kind of, it's almost like a MOBA, like the first version of it, RTS/MOBA type thing. But anyways, I digress.
Saga being told.
All right. Right, so Job 26:5. Dead things are formed from under the waters, and the inhabitants thereof. Now, I might as well bring up the little city that was flooded, we'll say. But anyways, I'll bring that up.
Whereas something like Mechanicus is a bit more inquisitive, you know? Still classic, so to speak, but they basically got gothic dubstep.
Hey, I loved it, man. I loved it, in my opinion.
And then there's the orcs. Darktide has decided to go the organ route, though it seems like it's more like organ club music, like the kind of music you'd expect to hear in a big city that is also heavily gothic, at least during its combat themes, which are excellent.
All right. So this one is going to be interesting. Okay, this is Ezekiel 26:18 through 20. Or in 21, I should say. Now shall the isles tremble in the day of thy fall. Yea, the isles that are in the sea shall be troubled at thy departure. For thus saith the Lord God, when I shall make thee a desolate city, like the cities that are not inhabited, when I shall bring up the deep upon thee, and great waters shall cover thee. When I shall bring thee down with them that descend into the pit, with the people of old time, that's interesting, and shall set thee in the low parts of the earth, in places desolate of old, with them that go down to the pit, that thou not be inhabited. And I shall set glory in the land of the living, and I will make thee a terror, and thou shalt be no more. Though thou be sought for, yet shalt thou never be found again, saith the Lord God. And here we go. I'll read a little bit more of this. And they shall take up a lamentation. So this is verse 17. And they shall take up a lamentation for thee, and say to thee, how art thou destroyed? Pay attention to this part here. That was inhabited of seafaring men, the renowned city. I wonder if that's Atlantis, which was strong in the sea. And she and her inhabitants would cause their terror to be on all that haunt it. Now shall the isles tremble in the day of thy fall, yea, the isles that are in the sea shall be troubled at thy departure. And it's not, and I'll bring up another part too. The Prince of Tyrus one. I'll bring that up too. I know it doesn't have much to do with zombies or anything like that, but it does have to do with the inhabitants thereof, right? That dead things are formed from under the waters thing. But anyways. great grit music, I think. Alright, check this out. Ezekiel 28:2. Son of man, say unto the prince of Tyrus, thus saith the Lord God. So this may be Poseidon here, in my opinion. Because thine heart is lifted up, and thou hast said, I am a god. I sit in the seat of God. Ready? In the midst of the seas. Poseidon was the god of Atlantis, by the way. Yet thou art a man, and not God, though thou set thine heart as the heart of God. So, very interesting.
Mr. Jesper Kid has done an enviable job creating not only great soundtracks that are good on their own, but also fit in universe. A ton of choir, mixed with the organs, mixed with the strings, and great inserts of electronic combinations add a ton to it. It's a rarity that you can take the theme, like Night Strider, which is played in the Psyker character trailer, and have it fit in a 40K game, despite it feeling like a badass 8-bit remix theme. Able to fit that kind of soundtrack in this game is a testament. It hits all the right beats, one after the other. They even found a way to sneak in the Skaven fiddle in just a little bit of the background of the main theme, which is also a banger.
All right, so I want to bring up the Raphaim as well. This goes with the dead stuff. Okay, so Rapha, or the Raphaim or Rapha, is a giant, or the Raphaim, and a giant Raphaims, but start paying attention to this part. Or Rapha, from Rapha, in the sense of invigorating a giant. Giant Raphaim. Okay, now let's go to the root word Rapha. Check this out. Oh, no, that ain't it. Hit the wrong button. Okay, so from the root word is to heal, to cure, to restore, to mend, right? Or primitive root properly to mend by stitching, figuratively to cure, to cause to heal, physician, repair, thoroughly, make whole. Now remember, dead things were formed from under the waters. Now, also, it says Og of Bashan was the last of the Raphaim, right? And then you got the Valley of the Raphaim, the Valley of the Dead. So, very interesting.
The only tracks I'm not huge on are probably the ones where an abomination.
Oh, real quick, I'm sorry. The Strongs for Rapha, the root word, is 7495. If you want to look that up, let me go to the other one. Okay. The other one is 7497. And if you want to, you could go to kjv.org and look up Og of Bashan, Last of the Raphaim. And it'll show you on the bottom of the page the Strongs. And you just click that and it'll show you what it means and all that. So there's that as well.
His presence, especially the Beast of Nurgle. It's a bit grating on the ears on the higher difficulties, which take a ton of time to kill the damn thing. But then on the other side of the spectrum, that boss music, though.
When I first heard this song, man, that was like the best time of my life there, I would have to say. We were going at it. It was very hard at higher difficulties
for sound design in this game.
When I first started, anyways. Once you know what to do, the boss is kind of easy. I'd have to say they kind of made him easy, but oh well.
Which does play a big part in it, but I don't include it much because what one company thinks a lasgun sounds like can be wildly different than what another company thinks it does. And both often sound good, but there is no dedicated lasgun sound. So, it's kind of hard to rate sound effects in a 40K game, as long as they sound good, because, I mean, don't worry, they sound fine. Lastly, but not least, we can talk about power scaling.
It's over 9,000!
Power scaling is very important. The level of power from something like an Orc Grot to a Guardsman to an Eldar Ranger, then a Space Marine, then a Necron Destroyer, then a Chaos Possessed, then a Custodian, and we haven't even talked vehicles or demons yet. Like, the differences from low to high are ludicrous, and then you have to deal with who's writing the book or game, and that takes a lot of effort to get properly correct. As far as this game is concerned, I think the amount of restraint should be commended. Some things are not perfectly in tune with the lore, mainly the influence of Nurgle. I mean, the mere existence of us in this hive city, we should be firing out of both ends. But considering our characters, the enemies we fight on an individual level, it's pretty accurate. The issue comes from which character you play. Like, the veteran and zealot are the weakest in universe. Yeah, it's completely accurate, somewhat at least, to take on a bunch of poxwalkers or guardsmen and come out the victor. Hell, even some of the specials, that's completely fine. If we are to assume that our reject is, special, main character special, then for the most part, the things we fight, the regular enemies, totally okay. Where things get a bit tougher is when we start dealing with the higher level enemies, like the mutants and especially the abominations like the Plague Ogryn, the Beasts of Nurgle. There, our Ogryn and Psyker.
And real quick, since I said it at the beginning of the video, the difference between fascism and imperialism, right? So fascism comes from this weapon called the fasce, and it has a lot in common with socialism, by the way, because the fasce, it had a bunch of little arrows in it, right? It was kind of like not necessarily rocket, but an explosion propelled, right? It had one big little arrow thing here in the middle with a bunch of little different arrows, right? And what it stood for was all coming to help kind of the one, right? Which is the same, almost pretty much the same thing as communism. And what people don't understand is that these guys, the bad guys from World War II, right? Or fascists, you could say, and the communists were both buddy-buddy for the longest time. The only reason why they, the communists don't like the fascists is because the fascists burned down the Reichstag and blamed World War II on them. That's the only reason why. They pretty much, the difference between communism and fascism, and again, is the hierarchy. But to be honest, there's a hierarchy in Marxism and communism as well. It's the state. You become the state, right? And imperialism, it's about the emperor, right? The emperor dictates, and then you got his little cronies, right? And in a way, yes, you have one guy, right? But it's everybody coming together, right? And being one. But the empire is more like different city-states that are different, but they're all under an empire, or an emperor, right? Like Rome, right? They would still let you have your gods, stuff like that. Still let you be a little bit of yourself, right? But you had to bend the knee to Rome, to that empire, right? Well, communism is different. You have to become communist fully, right? Same thing with fascism. You become, fascist, right? Instead of having your own little stuff, you take on what that invading army or the invading fascist, ideology. Okay, there you go. That's the difference.
Friend come in handy.
And I'm not saying either one of them is any good. Okay, I'm not saying that. They all have their and let me say this, it's all rigged. All the systems are meant for the rich to survive. That's the truth. Doesn't matter what system you're going to get, the rich will find a way to survive. So, but anyways,
Psychers are weird, though, in a sense, because they can either be insane wizards with
It's not the perfect explanation, but it's kind of the mundane version of it, I guess, per se. But anyways.
unimaginable power, or completely uncontrollable madmen. In fact, they can easily be a detriment to your team. In game, if they perils, they explode and get downed. In universe, if they perils, then a beast of Nurgle grows out of their body and kills us all. But that's a game thing, and I don't mind that at all. Still, the mere capability of one on the team ups our survival rating a decent amount. And the Ogren, oh my god, even more so. An Ogren is just gargantuan. They could probably beat up some Space Marines in a 1v1 fight, like no guns, no weapons, like just like 2 people in the ring. I'd say they could probably do it. It's a little bit of like a David and Goliath. Calling a Space Marine David. It's a bit of a David and Goliath thing, but they are large enough to do so. The thing is, in actual lore, Space Marines are too smart. They'll kill them from a distance, and they'll have knives and stuff. So there is that. But even so,
big old knives.
The Ogren ups us massively. The power of an Ogren, the actual genuine strength of an Ogren, should not be underestimated. They will rip you in half like a wishbone.
I think they did a good job with the Ogrens. You do feel like you're an Ogren. Or an Ogren. Sorry, my goodness.
They are gigantic. As far as the enemies go, the Beast of Nurgle is a really weird creature to exist, though. It's straight up a demonic entity, which cannot exist on its own. See, in 40k, demons don't have, like, a form in real space. They can only exist in the warp. So in order for
they need a point, so like a demon host, right? They need a physical point to come in, right? Is basically
demon to exist here, there has to be some level of rip in the real space that feeds it life. Or I guess it could have possessed something, sure, but that seems a bit less likely considering that we also have the Plague Ogren, which was possessed.
There you go. That's a better way of explaining it.
In this theory, it means somewhere, something in Tertium is feeding warp energy into real space. And that's a massive fucking problem that may or may not be dealt with in the future. I don't remember there being a mention of it, so that's just where my conclusion lies. However, I'm glad that Fat Shark showed restraint and didn't jerk us off too hard with how strong we are. The boss enemies in this game are often just like captains with plasma pistols and refractor field generators. 2, granted, extremely powerful pieces of equipment that often like company commanders in the guard will carry. So it's absolutely in line that a strong-ass captain who serves chaos with good-ass gear can serve as the game's boss fight. Now, some people ask, would a single Space Marine work as a final boss? One Space Marine, like a final boss. And to that I say, the tiniest maybe. If there was a Space Marine, it would be a Death Guard, most likely. Death Guard are slow, but they're still Marines. And if he is equipped with a bolter, then the damage he would dish out would be unrecoverable. He would take us all out pretty quick. Also, being in a square mile of a Death Guard Marine often comes with an ungodly amount of disease and probably in-game debuffs with it too. If anything, the best boss fight would be hide and seek. The only thing that would give us a chance is the Ogren and the Psyker. Warp power could definitely do damage, and the Ogren is still very, very strong. I suppose certain weapons like the Thunder Hammer and Plasma Gun would be pretty handy too, but it's still a little iffy. I would be okay with it if it was something ridiculous, like a level 5 mission where you had to play
Adeptus Ridiculous, am I right?
do the mission, do a boss fight against him, he gets away, more mission, boss fight again, different weapon, let's say, gets away, then boss fight again, final boss fight, like a 3-stage boss fight. You know, you go mission, fight, mission, fight, mission, fight. I'm having an Ogren moment. Something like that. Like, it needs to be really goddamn hard. It has to be a spectacle, or else it loses its scaling purposes.
Like a raid, you know, like the last raid, or you know, something to that extent.
But for now, here, tough-ass dude with a plasma pistol and a refractor shield. Perfect.
Which they do have now, by the way. There's a lot they've put into the game from the time of this video was done till now. So, kind of excited to see the next one. So, what he says about it. So, anyways.
Perfect. Exactly what I was hoping for. But at the end of the day, right, combining these things together, art direction, voice acting, music, and power scaling, Warhammer is an extremely hard medium to adapt properly. It takes a lot of the standard sci-fi conventions and outright says, No, do the opposite. Complete removal of tolerance. No AI whatsoever. It's taking what was a prosperous sci-fi universe and then giving it 10,000 years of degradation into ignorance. And then make them proud of it. For all the difficulties, I think Darktide gets a solid A on it. If there was a game to show someone and say, this is as close as I can get to explaining what Warhammer 40k is like, at least from the human point of view, it's this one. My hat is tipped to all the artists, designers, voice actors, and musicians that came together to make it possible, to make this world feel the way it does. Still plenty of hat tipping to the other devs too, but for this kind of thing, extra hat tipping, triple the tip. It could not have been easy, but I believe it has paid off. If you'd like to jump into it, it is in the description. Check it out. It's not a perfect game. Some things I will discuss more about in a future video, but it is still a damn fun one. And I have thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. T-shirt and jeans or sweater and khakis. I live in California, so t-shirt and jeans. What is a meme format / template do you wish not to exist? A meme format / template I wish not to exist. I wish Warhammer fans would get better jokes. Kriegsmen have shovels, haha. Like, this is what happens when you're part of a fan base that's normally over 35. You get
dad
Jimmy
jokes.
Fallon humor. Really enjoyed your MW2 remaster playlist, and I wanted to ask if you have any older games in your gaming library that you wish to revisit and play. I want to really badly make a video on Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. I love that game. I think it's great. I want to make the video title Call of Duty Infinite Warfare is amazing.
Yeah.
And you're all stupid.
Oh goodness.
That's gonna be the name of it. You're all wrong. I think it's amazing, and I want to do it.
I loved it. So I agree with Bricky. Pretty much this whole video I've agreed with Bricky. But yeah, I thought it was a good game. So
Like an hour-and-a-half long video talking about it. One day. I will see you next video. I don't know when it'll be out. Maybe not super soon, but soon enough. Maybe. I lie to myself a lot. Bye.
Come on.
boy. All right, guys. We're going to end it there. I want to thank you guys for watching the whole video, if you made it this far. And if you dislike the video, thank you for at least giving me a chance. And I don't mean that tongue-in-cheek either. And like I said, I'm going to make another trench video. I'm probably going to record it tomorrow and maybe release it tomorrow too. I don't know. Because I feel like you guys have been kind of shafted by me. Not intentionally, but I could definitely do a better job at that. You know. So I do want to get another one out there for you guys. It will probably be another Qatari one. Because he has another one. So I'm probably going to do that one. And we'll see how that goes. But anyways, thank you for supporting me. You guys have been doing amazing. You know, and liking the videos and all that. So I appreciate it. So thank you guys. And you guys have a wonderful day.